We are getting ready to start with our guest speakers for the evening. Our first guest speaker is Hagan. We met Hagan and her wonderful family in the fall of 2010 when Hagan's battle with viewing started. And Anna met Hagan also. And I'm very grateful for that the two of you spoke and shared things together. So Hagan, you hold a very special place in our hearts, and you always will. Without further ado, Ms. Hagan Hoppus.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored and blessed to be able to come here and speak to you all tonight. It was the start of my junior year. Lifeguarding, school, friends, sports, and family were all more than I could ever ask for. Everything was amazing except for this pain shooting down my right leg. At this point, I had spent 5 months seeing countless doctors, chiropractors, and physical therapists, but no one seemed to be able to stop the pain shooting down my right leg. Finally, we met a doctor that thought he had the answer. He diagnosed it as a herniated disc in my back. All he said he needed was an MRI, and he'd have the game plan, and I'd be back running varsity cross country in 2 weeks. On Thursday, my mom drove me to the Baylor Medical Center for an MRI, then quickly back to school. That night, my parents received a concerning phone call. The hospital asked for another MRI the following day with contrast. As the MRI started, so did the pain, followed by the tears. At this point, I realized probably something was definitely wrong. My parents received another phone call that night from the doctor. He asked for both my mom and my dad to get on the phone. He had said he'd already contacted an orthopedic surgeon by the name of Dr. Al Malabashi because they think that they found a mass in my hip. We went to see Dr. Malabashi the following Tuesday to discuss the biopsy and to understand what the MRI was showing us. Throughout the meeting, the doctor and my parents continually were amazed by how calm I was. I stood with all the confidence in the world that I was absolutely fine, and if I was just given the right medicine, all this would be okay. I began to even get irritated that everyone kept expecting me to break down and cry suddenly. On the ride home from the meeting, my parents again began to discuss my feelings toward the whole situation. At first, I kept the comments traveling in one ear and out the other, which all teenagers have mastered the art of, until they suggested I skip school for a week, and that this information was too much to handle. At this point, I put the brakes on the train of comments that was rushing in and out of my head, and allowed our conversation to marinate for a bit. Offering the option for me to skip school finally made it clear that maybe this whole thing was a little more serious than I first believed it to be. I began to let my friends and coaches in on what was going on. Everyone was basically just shrugged it off and said, "Oh, Hagan, it's not cancer. You're not the type to get cancer." And I agreed with them 100%. By the third period that day, I was ready to head home. I figured I might as well take my parents up on their offer and skip school since the biopsy was the next day. As I walked out to my car, the football team was being dismissed for dinner before the game that night. That's when all the fear that I had suppressed over the week finally hit me, and I raced into the arms of my best friend, and the floodgates opened. The next morning, the early car ride to the hospital was full of smiles and laughter. I was surprised to see a large portion of my family already sitting in the waiting room. Again, part of me tried to point out that this might be a bigger issue than I first thought, but as soon as that thought popped into my head, it was pushed out by my optimism. After waiting for about an hour and visiting with family members that had shown up for support, the nurses locked the rails on the side of my bed, as if I was going to make a run for it at any second, and escorted my parents and myself to the pediatric pre-surgery room. There were the starch white sheets, the multicolored curtains surrounding us, attempting to give us privacy, and finally Dr. Malabashi, the man who truly held my future in his hands. I was very proud of myself that even through this scary situation, I had kept a smile on my face. And I kept smiling until Dr. Malabashi simply asked if I had any final questions. I responded, "Just one. Do you think it's cancer?" The moment I asked the question, I knew the answer by just looking at his face. He looked back into my eyes and responded, "I'm afraid it probably is." That was when the whole thing finally became real to me. Tears began to flow down my face. The best way I can describe it to you is it's just very unfair. I was a healthy 16-year-old girl starting my junior year in high school with dreams of being homecoming queen the next year. And the next day, I was a cancer patient. The chemotherapy treatment started, and quickly homecoming was upon us. I love homecoming, and it was tearing me apart inside that I wasn't going to be able to go. I finally gave in to my mother's advice and responded to a Facebook message that Anna Basso had sent me, offering advice and encouragement. I like to think I was pretty put together through the whole situation, but when I went and looked back and reread our messages that Anna and I shared, I remember how lost I really was. I wasn't afraid of the actual cancer. I was just afraid of the infections that I'd been warned about and the possibility of becoming disconnected from my friends. My first message to Anna was just a list of questions, and she answered every single one of them completely as she could. She gave me comfort that only a girl fighting the same battle could give. She told me not to worry so much about infections, and even to try to go to classes when I could. But most importantly, she told me to go to homecoming. And as silly that might sound to you, it meant the world to me. That week before homecoming, I lost my hair. Very few could ever comprehend the pain in my father's eyes when he saw his 16-year-old daughter's hair falling out in just a week's time. I remember looking at my dad for answers as I tried to brush my hair, and as I pulled the brush away, chunks of hair followed falling to the ground. For the first time in my life, my father had no words. What does a father say to a 16-year-old daughter who's going bald? I remember my mom just trying to convince me that she could make my thin hair Texas big for homecoming if I just let her. But by that Thursday, I made the call for the hairdresser to shave my head. After countless nights in the hospital, with either my mom and my dad, me refusing to eat the hospital food, and my dad and I always asking the nurses to bring us Bluebell ice cream before we went to sleep, we made it through 28 weeks of chemotherapy and 31 days of radiation. We thought we were in the clear. I had made it through without too much trouble and was excited to enjoy my summer, until the dreaded 3-month scans came around. The results came back with good and bad news. Good news, we had killed most of the original tumor, but unfortunately not all of it. We met with the doctors, and the decision was made to remove a large portion of my pelvis in hopes of getting rid of the entire tumor altogether. We went forward with the surgery, but unfortunately, as some of you might know with chemotherapy, it kills the bad cancer cells, but it also kills some of the good. After 9 months of a very difficult rehabilitation, multiple stays in the hospital, and basically being retaught to how to walk, I was able to attend my last semester of my senior year without too many issues. I was able to attend prom and graduation, and even honored with a scholarship from the 1 Million for Anna Foundation, which helped me attend my dream college, Texas A&M. Woo! I am now a sophomore at Mays Business School and a member of the sorority Kappa Alpha Theta. I am a new and happy chapter of my life, as normal as I can be. People are shocked and caught by surprise when I talk about my experiences with fighting cancer, because they never see it coming. I enjoy telling my friends at school about my experiences because I believe it's so important for people to gain this awareness. Honestly, when I was diagnosed, I was so used to the idea of physical therapy that when I was told I was going to be receiving chemotherapy, I thought I'd be working out some and taking a little medicine. I was very, very wrong. As I tell my friends my story, it becomes clear to me that it's not just my story, but my family's story. My family and I fought this battle together every step of the way, and I know any member of my family would have taken my place in that hospital bed if they just had the chance. I'm here today because my family stood by my side through something that no family should have to face. I'm the woman I am today because of the love and support that is constantly shown me and to each other. Also, I learned that we can't sweat the small stuff. There are so many things that can be replaced and simply don't matter, and unfortunately, people put too much energy and worry into those things. If they would just take the moment and step back and really look at their lives, they would realize how blessed they really are. It amazes me to look back at the things I stressed over before I was diagnosed and compare them to the stress about what I stress about today, how petty my stresses used to be. No family should have to fight this terrible disease. That is why I'm so thankful for foundations such as 1 Million for Anna. They know the pain firsthand, and they're doing everything they can to stop the cancer from affecting more families. Cancer causes more death to children than any other disease, and government funding is far from adequate. The real results will come from foundations such as 1 Million for Anna. Thank you.